Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Lenz VO Podcast. My name is Mike Lenz. I'm an entrepreneur and a full-time professional voice actor and audiobook narrator. My goal is to share with you stories from some of the most amazing and inspiring people from all areas of the voiceover industry to help you achieve your dream of becoming a professional voice actor. So please leave me a review over on iTunes and join us over on the web at mikelenzvopodcast.com to be notified of each episode when it comes out. Now, get ready to be inspired. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Mike Lenz VO Podcast. On today's episode, my returning guest is my good friend, Tawny Platis. Tawny is a voice actor and content creator who has worked with clients like Disney+, Hulu, Warner Brothers, Genshin Impact, Angry Birds, Raycon, and Harvest Snaps. Video games and animated works like Symphony of War 2, House on the Outlands, and Garbage People. She has also narrated novels alongside Aaron Shedlock for USA Today bestselling authors Angela Sanders and Anna Applegate, and award-winning author Natalie Simons. After getting her start in San Diego, California as a local child actor, she began working in entertainment and creating content full-time in 2017. Tawny creates content across platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, for over 1.8 million followers, and her content is amazing, and we'll talk about that. So, Tawny, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me again. Always great to talk with you.
I know we've been friends for a while now. I know that we met many years ago. I think I know I still own the pharmacy when we first started chatting and you first came on as a podcast guest. So that's a while ago because I sold the pharmacy over 8 years ago. So I'd say it's probably a good 10 years that we've known each other. And it's just been an absolute joy to watch the progression of your career. Even when I met you, you had a great career. But to see where it's gone from the time we met to where you are now is just, I think, amazing. So I wanted to have you back on to give everybody a little update on what's going on in Tawny's world. Let's start by giving a little backstory so people that might not have listened to that first episode, tell us a little bit about your backstory, what got you involved in the voiceover industry, and what's led to all the other amazing things that you're now doing.
Sure. Thank you so much. So I actually got my very first voice acting job when I was 6 years old here in San Diego for a local radio station. And I don't even remember what it was that I was doing an ad for. It was a commercial, but I remember going into the radio station and I remember saying in my voice, my actual speaking voice has not changed very much. I was like, it tastes like real grapes. And so I'm like, it had to have been cold medicine or something. If it tasted like real grapes, it was probably cold medicine.
Probably.
But that was the first gig that I got for voice acting, and I did a lot of theater locally here in San Diego. Did on-camera stuff like commercials, print, student film, kind of everything. At that time, it was very much get what you can book. So whether that was voice acting, theater, anything, and it was very easy to do that, like when you were local, because stuff was just more accessible, like in print listings. But as I got older, I was like, well, entertainment is not very stable. I should definitely pursue something else and just kind of keep doing that on the side. And if I get a big break or whatever, fantastic, but I'm not going to bet on it. So I did the super safe thing, which was open a different business, which is always great.
Sure. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
But it actually ended up being something that was really helpful. I think the most helpful thing in getting my voice acting career successful, because I had a business background by the time I went full-time in voice acting. I opened a retail store. I learned how to run a business. I grew it. It became very successful. I then sold it, used that money to start voice acting full-time because by that point, it was very accessible. Back in the 90s, you still had to go into a studio and you had to audition in a studio and then you had to record in a studio. But around the mid-2010s, you could build something in your home and you could get voice acting through different virtual platforms. So that's what I did. I started voice acting in that way and just kept building it up and saw the potential there. And that's that transition into now, I guess.
Yeah. And I know you and I have talked about that because I had a small business. I ran a small independent pharmacy. And I know for both of us, when you transition into that, so many people that think about getting into VO, they don't have that business background. And that is really a big hurdle for a lot of people to have to overcome who've gone from having a career maybe where they just got a paycheck at the end of each week. They never had to keep track of their expenses and their revenues and payroll and all those things that we have to think about as small business owners. And they transition over and they're like, I don't know how to do that end of this. I just thought I would get in front of a microphone and talk. And, a lot of the stuff that we do, the majority of stuff that we do is not behind the microphone. It's all the stuff we do when we're not behind the microphone that gets us the work that ends up, paying the bills. So having that small business background is really important, and you're living proof of that for sure.
Thank you. I agree. It's one of the reasons I don't teach a whole lot of actual voice acting. I do, but my big focus is on the business side of things because there are so many amazing voice acting coaches for that acting part. And I think it's wonderful. And I'm so grateful to all of those people. But there is not a lot of, still to this day, there's more, but not a lot of business resources. And I feel like a lot of people, that is what they do need. And that is the hardest transition. It's not the acting part. A lot of people are great actors. It's right. Knowing how to self-manage and stay consistent and disciplined and understanding and looking at voice acting as a business as opposed to, which is kind of a sad thing to say, as opposed to just being play and art and it'll take care of itself. I'm just so good. Everybody will hire me. And I'm just focused on the acting part, which I wish was true. But, so many people, they get hung up on how to get work and they don't really hone in on that fact that it is a business that needs to be advertised. They just completely skip that part and they're just freaking out. I'm auditioning so many times a day. Why am I not getting work? And I'm I have rarely ever auditioned for much, if anything. I think that's kind of a taboo thing to say, but I'm not really a big fan of auditioning unless I'm personally requested or I see something really cool that comes by. I'm it's not a very efficient use of time, in my opinion.
You have a very holistic approach to creating your brand and who you are, and you haven't limited yourself to just one particular area. And, there's rules of thought about, you pick what you want to do and stick to it versus, get yourself stretched too thin. But I don't aspire to that. I don't agree with that. I think that there are many things we can do as not only voice talent, but increasingly, as we'll talk about in a few minutes, being content creators, being out there in the world and creating our brand and being authentic and unique in what we present to the world. And if you do that, then, as you just said, more often than not, the work will come to you. But if you aren't engaging in that, part of what it means to be a professional voice actor, content creator, is if you're just going to go on pay to plays and just audition all day and get really frustrated because you've done 100 auditions and haven't booked anything, and then you do that for 2 months and then you quit.
Oh, yeah.
Is what a lot of people do. And I'm not saying that to be mean to anybody, but I know that I've experienced that in my own career and people that I've spoken to and mentored over the years is that they get very, very frustrated very easily instead of going out and creating the life that they want to live. And a lot of people don't even know what that is. So the first step is figuring out what that is or experimenting with things that you think it might be and not being afraid to go after that and explore that. So let's dive into that because one of the most amazing things that I've witnessed is your ability to take social media and make it a tool for you to put out to the world what it is that you want to put out to the world. And that creativity is like a magnet and has created people to you, primarily because you're incredibly talented. And you've figured out how to create this content. And it never gets old. It never gets stale. And I know you're going to tell me that, you make it a point because you've told me this before, that you don't do the same thing over and over again. You absolutely change, pivot, because you don't want to get stale in the world of social media. So I know this is a big, big topic, but let's talk about that because I know it's really important in terms of what you do.
I think that it is a creative endeavor, and I think people look at it as advertising in that way of traditional advertising where it's oh, I'll put out my information in a little piece of paper. Somebody will notice it and then understand what I do and come find me. And I don't think that that is a very effective way to look at it. You have to look at it in a sense of actually being like creative and creating something that people are going to enjoy watching, that is not going to really read like an advertisement, like a traditional advertisement. People are so tired of being sold to. They're so tired of commercials and ads, and they want to really connect with somebody and enjoy what they're creating. And that means making something that is entertaining or educational. And it's something that it shouldn't feel like an ad. And I wish I could like get my clients to accept this as well, because so often they want me to create content for them to advertise for various clients where they're like, and then we want it to say, and this week only for only $10, you can get all of this and now premiering and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, nobody's going to watch it. It sounds like they're just going to tune out. They don't want to hear it. It needs to just be connected to whatever it is. It has to beg the question almost, because then people are going to want to find out, what is this? This is so cool. I'm really enjoying this. Those are the best clients to work with, are the ones that are cool with that, and the ones that really truly like trust you. Like you're good at this. You have expertise. I trust you to do this. Like when they have so many requirements for like what they want in the video with like logos and what they want you to say and the call to actions and everything. I'm like, nobody's going to watch this, and you're not going to listen to me, and then you're going to blame me when it doesn't get the views that you want.
Exactly.
And yeah, so that part is the part that I want people to take away for their own businesses as well. It needs to simply connect with people. Like and then it starts a conversation. So it's like you create something and it's like, wow, that's so cool. How do you do those voices? Oh, I'm actually a voice actor, and then it starts conversation. That screen being in between us so often, it makes people forget about like how to have actual social interaction, So it's like if we were talking to this person like at a party and I like was having a conversation with them and I popped off about something, I'm like, oh yeah, like you remember how Betty Boop used to go like or whatever she did.
I think that's what she did.
Yeah. Right. Well, I feel like I went off on her voice a little bit. I think she went boop, boop, boop. Wow, that's so cool. Like, do you do impressions? Like, oh, I'm actually a voice actor. Yeah. Oh, wow. How'd you get into that? Yeah, this, that, and the other. Then, it leads to conversation. You ask people about them and you learn about it. And it's like, okay, how can I connect that to what I do? And like, how does that help you? And people hire people that they like. And that goes back to that part too, that I think is really hard for a lot of voice actors, is they get so attracted to, oh, I don't have to talk to anybody. I'm alone and I get to perform still, but I don't have to have social interaction. That's amazing. And I'm like, that's not really how it works. Like we have to be so social, and that's how we get jobs, is by making friends with people. And you see that in a macrocosm as well in Hollywood, when it's like all the reason that you see people who are cast in those projects repeatedly together and with the same director, it's because they like working together.
Right.
And it's the same thing with what we do too. It's like everybody likes working with their friends, and that's how those people got those jobs in the first place, was they made friends with people. So I think if you look at it in that way, it's more fun and it's easier to create.
And it's unique to you, and you feel comfortable living in that skin. And one of the audiobooks I'm narrating right now is talking about the transformation economy, how we've even moved from the experience economy to the transformation economy, is that people want to be transformed by whatever it is that you're providing them. And they want that transformative experience. And I think that you're creating content on social media that is fun for you to create. You're enjoying yourself. So many people look at social media as an obligation. Like, okay, this is something I have to do. I better post about this. I better post about that. They don't give it a whole lot of thought. They feel like they just have to do it to stay up with everybody else. Versus those people who are able to have fun and create content that they really enjoy creating, that doesn't overtly scream, I'm a voice actor, as you said, but it still draws people in. When you do those voices, like from the 20s to the 2000s, whatever topic you're on, I will watch the whole thing because I am so entertained by it. I'll have my wife watch it. I'm like, you got to watch this because you're really, really good at that. But you also look like you're having a ball doing it. And that, I think, is the key, is when you're able to transition over from feeling like it's an obligation to enjoying what you're doing. And, you've grown to close to 2 million followers all told across all those different social media channels. Tell me a little bit about that journey, because when we first met, I think you were just starting to get into the social media world. What's that elevation, that rise? What's that ride been like for you?
Oh my goodness. It's been wild because it changes so often. Like everything about social media is constantly changing. So I always tell people, I'm like, I got in at a certain time, and if I told you how I did it, I don't think it's going to apply anymore. And that's so often what people want to hear, because they want to emulate that. Like, oh, I'm going to do what you did. And I'm like, I don't think that would work today. I don't think it would go that way at all.
They're not you either, right? Do your thing. You be you.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because it's so true. Like you'll see this advice that people will give or hear. And it's like, do this to get more social media followers. Do that to get more social media followers. And out of curiosity, I have like followed that advice that I have seen people pitch. And I'm like, it doesn't work for me. That stuff does not work for me. What works for me is following my instincts, going with my gut, and not always, but enough times that I feel confident in like making those choices. And it took a lot of decades to get to that point of trusting myself because I'm at that age now where I've been around long enough that I have a lot of data. And I also feel like, okay, I don't feel like just the dumb kid in the room anymore. I feel like now I'm like old enough to compete because it's always when you're younger, like there's people that are like, I've been doing this as long as you've been alive, So you always feel like, oh, I should just listen to them because that's wise, is to listen to your elders or the people who came before you or people who are experienced.
In some respects, yeah. But
yeah, that's traditionally been seen as wise, So that was always my thought process going into that. And, a certain point came where I'm like, I don't think that what these people are saying is going to work for me, at least. So I have to figure out what is going to work for me and what makes sense to me. I'm smart. I know what I'm doing. Like I need to feel confident to actually go for it and make those choices. And if it doesn't work, try something else.
Right. And that's what I love about your content, because you do different things. If you go through Tawny's Instagram, you'll see there's a period of time where you're doing one particular thing and then something else and something else and something else. And there's constant change, which again, I think we talked about before we started recording, is really important to do in the social media world, because getting people's attention is hard enough. Keeping people's attention is even harder because there's so many choices out there on social media. So that's an important piece too, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And it's tough because there's a balance between it of doing what is recognizable too. Because there's sometimes where it's like I go too much in a different direction and that doesn't work, and there is that consistency that people like of like that one particular thing. And I'm like, okay, like we still like that. Okay.
I tried this, but I'm going to go back to that.
Yeah. And it changes. Like, and I always say, like, if I didn't try something new, I wouldn't have found that thing that does really work for me very consistently. So I think there's a balance between that of like having that recognizable brand, giving people what they're coming to your channel to see, and then like recognizing like, is it still fresh? Is it still working? Because sometimes people get tired of it and they want to see something new. They want to see some kind of evolution, but not too far in a different direction. Like if I started making like automobile car content, like, okay, we're going to like fix up this Chevy. Like I think I'd lose a lot of people.
Yeah. Start a farm, on 5 acres, then maybe it might work.
Right.
It could work.
Start cooking on my channel.
Sourdough bread. I think there might be a future in that. Maybe I'll give it a try. So I'm curious again for people that haven't been following your journey. What are you doing most of the time now? Like what is it that's interesting to you? What kind of projects are you working on? I know people that know me know I do a lot of audiobook work, and we've had conversations about audiobooks, and I know you do audiobooks, and I know you've got some exciting news about that coming up for you. So what are you doing these days? Tell everybody, what's a day in the life of Tawny look like?
Yeah, it's been really exciting. It's changed a lot since we've chatted. With audiobooks, it was one of those things that became I could get really picky because I had so many offers. I think that I probably get depending on the day, 2 to 5 offers a day of somebody who's like, I want you to narrate my audiobook. So I can be very picky, choosy. I've been really lucky to land a book with somebody from the Big Five. So I'm going to be narrating an audiobook that is from a major, major publisher, which is very exciting.
That's fantastic.
And also I am so picky about my audiobooks because they are a lot. Audiobooks are very labor intensive. So I don't have a lot of time these days with my schedule. So I'm very picky, choosy. It has to be something I really, really like, that's written well, that is somebody cool is making.
Yeah, sure.
And I have been pretty much booked out for the next couple years too on consistent projects. So also very picky, choosy about the jobs that I'm taking in between that, because I'm pretty set for the time being, which means I do have some time in my schedule available, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm not hard up for work. So I get to be very picky about that, which has been fun.
Yes. You're not taking jobs because you have to. You're taking them because you want to.
Exactly.
Which is a big difference.
So exciting. And I think this is going to be the first place that I actually share this publicly. I've started a production company, and I am in post-production for 3 series, and we have 3 more in development, and those are going to be premiering early next year, which has been such a cool adventure. It's been amazing. I'm really excited about it.
So when you say production company, what are we talking about? What type of production?
Yeah. So it's scripted. There's scripted series. There is, what can I say? There is a tabletop series, so playing tabletop games, and there is a interview talk show type of series.
Right. So audio, video.
A little bit of everything. Yes, yeah, everything is visual in this. This is all digital series with
that's
visual.
wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
it's
fantastic.
been great.
I know and this is a little off topic, but maybe not. I know one of our sons is very much into D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, and he'll have me watch live streams. And there's a group of voice actors that he created his own company, and they live stream their D&D. And when they're done with a particular D&D, whatever they call it, then they go make a film, an animated film about that D&D that they created on the fly as voice actors, ad-libbing all the way through. And at the end, they go to an animation company or whoever they're working with, and they create these animated movies that they release. Yeah. So that's a perfect example. And again, you're a perfect example of go create the life you want. You can create whatever life you want. Just go do it.
Absolutely. And that being said, I'm very privileged to have been in that situation of having success and being able to use that to create the life that I want.
Right. Of course.
Yeah. Very, very fortunate, very grateful that I had those resources and I was able to get to that point too, because it took a lot of building to get there.
Yeah. And and neither one of us is saying that this is easy, right?
No, God, no.
It's not. I remember having a conversation with one of my coaches saying, I'm having to transition over from trying to be a voice actor, trying to get gigs, to managing a career. And there's a big difference in that, isn't there? Because you're in a position now where you are managing your career. You have choices through a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, a lot of difficult times where you didn't have a lot of work, right? We've all been there. And so you have nothing to apologize for or feel bad about, because that's a result of the work that you put in to get to this point. And I think a lot of people listening and people that may follow you on social media have to realize that you didn't start with 2 million followers. You started with 0.
No.
And it took a lot of work to get where you are.
Yeah, we were talking about this before we hopped on the podcast. There was a time where you called me to check in on me because I had gone through some really tough stuff. And I was one bad month away from living out of my car. Yeah. And that was about, oh my gosh, is that like 5 or 6 years ago now? It's been a little while. And to go from that of like, I'm worried if I'm going to be able to take care of my high needs dog that became high needs with medical issues. And, I don't know what to do, to being able to, pay off my condo, buy a condo and pay it off within a few years and open a production company, and to have so many people, like to be able to hire so many people too for that. It's been wild to see that in just like a few years. And, it came from working constantly. That was 7 days a week. That was 10, 12 hours a day. I'm 35. I can't do that anymore. I would not be able to do it. No, I was able to, when I was 18 and I started my retail store, I was able to do that and then go out and like club all night and then,
Right.
Get 4 hours of sleep and do it again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would not want to start over again at this age.
Not anymore. Not anymore. No. And nor should you, I guess, at this point. But
No.
what's your favorite thing to do?
I really like producing. That's really what I love to do. I really enjoy it. But for voice acting, character work, I think that's everybody's favorite at the end of the day. I think everybody really wants to be doing character work.
Yeah, that's fun. And
Yeah.
in the process of where you were to where you are, any obstacles or hurdles that you can think of that were really challenging to you? You mentioned one, obviously. Any other that have come along that you thought, man, this is a tough one, and you got over it? And then what did you learn from being that perseverance and actually working through that hurdle or getting over that hurdle?
I'm going to make a dark joke. Besides my husband dying,
Yeah,
that was a tough one.
that might be at the top of the list, I think. Yeah.
That one was pretty hard. I'd say it was up there.
Yeah.
That after that, everything is smooth sailing, to be honest.
I imagine.
Yeah. After that, I was like, after you like get to a good, safe spot, stable place after that, everything else is like, you don't really get very worried anymore about anything or stressed out.
I imagine. Yeah. And you cope with it in different ways, right? So you went through different manifestations of that grief. And I'm not asking you to go back there, but I do know that you did. You went through several different manifestations of how you really worked through that grief. If you want to just at least touch on that, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I made content about it because I couldn't shut up about it. Like it was very traumatic. It was, which I think all death is, but it was unexpected. It happened in my home. We were in our 20s, so it was a lot. It was a lot, and I'm very like one of those people that is blunt, I would say. I don't like to beat around the bush about stuff. I also don't like to just push stuff away. I like to deal with it. I'm like, okay, what's if there's ever some weird feelings in relationships, with friends or anything like that, I'm not that person that's like, oh, let me wonder or try to figure out. I'm like, are we good? Is everything okay? What's wrong?
Let's talk about
this.
Are
you upset? Yeah. I'm very much that personality type. I'm very blunt, very forward. And, it was something that I made art about it because I couldn't shut up about it, and I wanted to deal with it, and I dealt with it very intensely for 2 years, and then at kind of that 2-year, 3-year mark, I was like, I'm feeling pretty good now. I feel like I've handled it, I've dealt with it, and I'm good.
Was it Death is Hilarious? Was that a podcast? Was it a pod?
It was a podcast, yeah, and because I had noticed at the time, and I still think this is true. People are very binary about how to handle grief, and a very valid and effective coping mechanism, if you do some research into it, is making jokes about it. I find things easier to talk about when I'm making jokes about it, not as opposed to deflecting, which a lot of people use humor to do, is to deflect. For me, it was easier to talk about because it was so hard to live through and talking about it. And I'm like, oh, if I'm joking about it, it's going to be easier and it's not going to hurt as bad because I'm laughing about it. And I really discovered that most of the world is not ready for that. I don't know if they ever will be.
You built a nice little community about that, though. I remember some of those comments from people that really appreciated what you're doing. There were people that were not, and that's life, and anything that you do, people are going to be critical. But there are definitely people that felt that was a really good way for them, and it helped them get through it as well. So good for you.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, thank you so much. But it was very helpful. It was a tool when I needed it, and then I got to a point where I was like, I feel like I'm done.
Right.
I'm good.
Move forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
I want to dive a little bit into your creative process because, as I said before, you're creating amazing content. What's the process for you? How do you go about coming up with the concept, actually putting it into action and recording it? What's that creative process like for you?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think that people that make content, or like make stuff, it's very similar to anything else as far as like a creative profession goes, where typically the best people are people who are avid consumers of it too. So, for example, like most directors who are really amazing directors are cinephiles. They love film. They're obsessed with film. I think most painters, are probably obsessed with artists, like, in whatever capacity that they do that. Similar with voice acting, I think most voice actors are generally really passionate about animation as a typical one. Audiobook narrators, I have noticed, typically love listening to audiobooks. That's how they got into it. Yeah. I'm seeing that's the case.
Yep.
And that's the same for me. I love watching that kind of stuff that I make too, that short form stuff. I think it's so creative to have that kind of limitation around like what you can create. I think that oftentimes breeds really cool like innovation and concepts. Or, if you're like, I have 60 seconds or I have 3 minutes and it has to be vertical, so it has to make sense, and I only have these tools, like what can I make with what I have? I think that can create some of the coolest stuff when you're like in a pinch like that.
Yep.
So I'm an avid consumer of it. I love to watch, people be creative. So that really inspires me. And I also talk about what I love, which is entertainment. That's been my whole life. I don't have any memories of a time in my life where I wasn't on stage, film, camera, microphone. I don't have any. For as long as I've had memories, I have been working, which is kind of dark. But that's another discussion for another time. So, it's stuff that I have a lot of knowledge about. And I think that really helps with the process. So I will be, sitting there and I'm like, okay, what is it that I want to talk about? Like, what is the thing that's in my head right now? What have I been watching, And then, I will make that like list of stuff. I play, like I really feel like it's like playing. I have a Word doc and I'm just writing down things that are coming into my head. And, then it starts to take form and it gets refined and refined and refined. And my particular style of content that I make right now it's very much borrows from drag culture. I did drag for a while in my 20s, like not professionally or anything. It was very unprofessional more than anything, but I was very much part of that community. And in that community, you do something called reading, which is very much like playful teasing is like what that means. So if you like read somebody, you're like teasing them about themselves, but it's like ribbing or like roasting. Roasting is probably a better word. So that is like the form of comedy that I have always really been a part of. It really influenced me in my comedy style, and that is what I take. So I'll be looking at these concepts that I'm working with, and I'm like, oh, I know who that person is, and I just start reading them or roasting them, and it turns into a script that gets refined and then makes its way out into the world.
The production side of things, I know you can't say too much about it, but maybe just share with us the transition that you went through, because I do know, like in the acting world, there's people that I've had friends that are actors and they're like, well, I really want to get into producing because I want to have control, creative control. I don't want to be the one having the answer to somebody. I want to be the one who's saying, let's do this and this. What was that process like for you, from going from being the creative, being the talent, to now transitioning over to being the producer? It's a different hat to wear, a lot of different hats to wear. What was that process like? And now you said you love doing it. What's it been like transitioning over into that?
Yeah, it is, but it isn't very different, because when I really came up like into being a full-time actor, being a full-time voice actor, when that was happening, it was when I saw the change with social media and AI voices. And that year, 2017, when I went full-time, I was noticing, oh, you need to make yourself a brand if you're going to want to keep getting work. Like, you have to be the person, like the cool thing. Like, you have to make yourself a celebrity before you become a celebrity, so you get booked for projects. Like, people have to find you that way, and you have to have the audience and bring the audience. So I feel like I've been producing for most of my career, or I've had that mindset at least.
Right.
And that was a lot of what drove me to, I'm going to start a production company because, and I've always been like this, I'm like, I don't like waiting around for opportunities. I don't want, especially with the nature of the industry and everything that's happening with AI, with how I personally think how Hollywood is being managed too. I think that we are heading that direction where it's going to be very small independent production companies. And I think that these big studios are going to put out a few, we're already seeing it, like in how much less they are putting out every year in terms of like film and series. It's greatly reduced. And I think that that's one of the reasons people aren't watching anymore, is like they have completely lost touch with what the public wants and like, yeah, what the public wants. And I think that that's why they are on social media, and that's why they're watching their entertainment on social media. And that's where I think the future of all of this is headed. So for me, it came down to like, I don't want to wait for people. I know I'm good at what I do. There's not a lot being produced. There's so much competition. I don't want to wait to make these. I don't want to wait to play these characters. I don't want to wait on somebody else. I'm very much like, and that is part of the control thing. And it's like, if I'm producing it, like I can cast myself in whatever. Yeah. And then it goes back to, again, like it's easier to network and make connections with other people, so then you can be in their projects as well. So that was, it was a very natural transition for me. I think that I've always wanted to do that too, though. Like when I was a kid, like I was like, oh, I love acting, but like I want to make this stuff.
Yeah. And you've been self-producing your whole life, as you said, through whatever period of time you were in, you were producing Tawny Platis and presenting Tawny to the world in whatever manifestation that was. So let's just talk very briefly before we wrap up about AI as well, because I think that's a topic that's on a lot of people's minds, certainly in the acting community, the voice acting community, the audiobook narration community. What's your take on it? You touched on it a little bit just a few minutes ago, but what's your 30,000-foot view of that, and where do you think we're headed with that?
I think that we are headed towards kind of what I saw originally, which is like you have to be a recognizable person to get cast for voice acting stuff. I think a lot of people also hate AI, which we're all delighted about. Like that is one of the things that I did not have on the bingo card, was people hating AI, because for years I saw people with just so many comments on my videos, just like, ha 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 ha, you're going to get replaced by AI. Oh, enjoy your job while you can. Like taking delight in it, really oddly.
It's unfortunate.
So strange. Yeah. But so I was like, oh, I guess that's where we're headed. AI is taking everybody's jobs, and we're just headed for a Mad Max Fury Road type existence. Everything's just going to be crazy. But now, like, it's been so cool to see the response to AI, and most people hate it, and I love to see that. So it's very encouraging. So that's very encouraging. But yeah, I still think that, like, regardless, AI or not, like, you have to create content in the same way every business has to create content. There's not a lot of businesses out there that are able to continue to exist without that advertising on social media in some way. And I think that you have to do that same thing with voice acting. And again, like the networking too. Like, so people hire people they like. So you have to think of it as like, I'm making friends with these people and I'm advertising on social media, but advertising in like a networking kind of way where it's like making connections and getting that visibility. There's some other stuff that's really encouraging too. Like, copyright, people, like the court cases, like we'll see how that all goes. But, it is stealing from people's existing work. Like, people can just go out there and sample my voice from the hundreds of hours of content that I have and just rip that, put it into the AI machine, and then they have Tawny Platis' voice. So it's cool to see how the laws are being navigated and how law is being navigated with that, because fortunately, people who quote unquote matter are being affected by that. So like the big businesses, they're like, well, we don't want our things stolen, like you can't do that. So that's fortunately in our favor, because that'll apply to us as well. And then working on the like virtual assistant side and the voice automated side, where it's like they're using AI for sentence generation in a lot of the jobs that I do. So I'm working with these engineers. There is technology being developed that's very similar to the technology on YouTube. So where if you upload something on YouTube, they are able to recognize that it is a copywritten song very quickly, and they will block whatever it is that you uploaded that has that song in it because of the copyright detection. It's pretty amazing. That is being developed for voices as well, and it's in its early stages. And I know it's like hard for people to conceptualize that working, but I take yourself back however many decades and try to imagine conceptualizing where we are today with technology, and you wouldn't be able to. And I remember people saying they'll never do XYZ back in the 90s and 2000s, and here we are doing XYZ. So it's very early stages. It's still being developed, but that's also very encouraging as well. And then being able to make copyright claims for ourselves. So like if we do hear our voice, somewhere, we can make a copyright claim on it. Like we did not
authorize
that usage. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's ever evolving, and I think it's good to keep our eyes on it and to understand what it is. And I agree with you 100%. I do see the feedback from people who, especially in the audiobook world, who just don't want to hear somebody speaking into their ear for 10 hours that isn't a real human being, because there's beauty in imperfection. We as humans actually want to hear imperfection. We admire that as much as we all think we seek perfection. We really don't. We seek to be the best version of us that we can be, but imperfection is what makes us human. And I hope that humanity hasn't lost its humanity in terms of performance and the type of art that people create for other humans. And I think if we do, we've just lost our soul as a planet if we allow that to happen. And I don't think that is the case. There's so many other analogies or different examples of things where people have thought it was great in the beginning, and then they come back to what the nostalgia of wanting to come back to what it was that they knew. You think of the advent of like the big malls, back in the 70s and 80s, all the downtowns were dying because of the malls. And now everybody wants to go somewhere where there's a beautiful downtown, and they want to go experience that. They want to go into the shops and meet the owners and feel good about spending time in this place that's real. And I think that applies to the creative arts as well. Painting, writing, performing, stage work, movies, theater, any type of creative endeavor. I do fully believe that AI is going to have an impact, and already has had an impact. But I think long term, my hope is that people will realize that it's not really what they want when it comes to the creative arts. We'll hope we get there.
I hope so. I have a couple of thoughts about it, where it's like, I think about and I'm not a biologist. I always want to preface, I'm not a biologist. This is just my understanding of biology. We, as humans, there is that need for human connection, like biologically.
Yes.
Like we have to connect with people. That's why you saw all of the horrible things that happened when we had to, of course, but it was why isolation was so hard in 2020, and again, I'm not advocating that was necessary, but the reason it was so painful and it caused so much hurt and pain
Sure.
was because we need that biological connection with people. And that, I think, in terms of human evolution, that is going to take, if we do go that direction, that is going to take a long time to evolve out of. And I think that with AI, it's people will use it for as a helpful tool, but I think people are always going to want that human connection part, and it's not going to replace that. It could supplement. And I think that with AI too, it's more of a question. I don't know that AI can learn intuition, because it is making decisions based on data, right? And there are times that we as artists and humans in general will have to make a decision, and we'll look at all of the data and we're like, I just have a feeling. I just have a feeling that this is the choice. Yeah. And sometimes you're wrong, but But when you're right, you're right. And like it feels good. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, that was the right choice. So I'm like, I don't know that AI can learn that into, maybe it can. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I am curious if it could learn intuition. Like when should you break the rule?
Mm-hmm.
To make this, because that's going to be what it calls for. When does it make sense to break the rule? When does it make sense to do it this way when everything else is telling you to do it the other way? So that's one thing we have going for us.
The beauty of what you have done in terms of being creative, I don't think that AI can necessarily do that, because the stuff that you're working on, the stuff that you're creating, is what is coming from your soul, coming from deep inside of you, that you feel that needs to come out. And that's what a lot of creative people will tell you. It's like, I don't know where it came from. I just knew it was in here and I needed to get it out somehow, whether it's a song, art, whatever it may be. And I think that's the important piece that I don't believe AI is going to be able to do, because as you said, they can't create or dig into that well of emotion that exists within every person and is unique to every person. They're only gathering the data of all the information that they have. And where we are creative is where we go where no one else has gone before, or not in the way that we've gone. And you're a perfect example of that. So,
oh, thank you. I think
doing
that, thank you. I appreciate that. I think we're seeing that on like a different scale too, even AI aside, where you're seeing these big studios are regurgitating stuff, which is what AI does
all the time.
You know, AI takes stuff and they borrow from it, they regurgitate it, they just like copy it, and that's what these studios are doing. And everybody is just like, God, why is nothing good? Like, why is nothing good anymore? And it's because that they're doing what AI does, even if they're not necessarily using AI. But that's why like the script sucks, the story sucks, you know? It's like it's not hitting like other stuff does. And you can tell the difference. Like when you do see something that's really special and unique and fresh, that's not just something that's been regurgitated. Like we've seen this movie already. This is the sequel, the nth sequel, the remake of something that came out just 5 years ago even, you know? So yeah, it is a little heartening, I think, to notice that stuff.
Well, I'm glad you are continuing on your creative journey, and I love watching how it's expanding and mushrooming out from where it began, and I think it's fantastic. So, anything I didn't ask you that you want to talk about?
Oh gosh, not that I can think of off the top of my head. No.
It's a pretty far-ranging conversation, which we usually have, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
Well, I am going to have to ask you that single piece of advice. So that's the last question. So if you were sitting across from not just a voice actor, but someone who is a creative like you, or wants to be a creative like you, and in many different areas, what would be a single piece of advice that you would give them?
I think it would be to take control over your own art and be that entity that is producing, so that people want you, if that makes sense. So don't wait for those opportunities. Like start making the stuff, start connecting with people, you know, who you might need to help you get to that point. But yeah, I've never waited. I've never waited for anybody to come to. I'd still be waiting, I think, because a lot of people don't see the vision until I've already thrown it at them and it's hit them in the head.
Like, wow, okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's what you do. Oh, okay.
Didn't see that coming.
People do like that weird shit you make. Oh, can I cuss on your podcast? I'm sorry.
You can. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
No problem at all. No, I love that. And I think that's a great piece of advice for anybody in the creative field. And just, be true to yourself. Be true to yourself.
Yeah.
There's no need to replicate or do what everybody else is doing, because what you're doing is fascinating enough. And it should be out to the world. I think not enough creatives follow that advice that you just gave, which is just take control and do what you want to do.
And that's not to say like, to not improve or you shouldn't evolve. Like I don't think everything I've ever made hits or is even good, but it was part of the process in getting good, or like getting to that point too. So yeah. I think that actually, I changed my answer. Don't be afraid to be cringe, because that's what I actually think is going to destroy voice acting. That's what concerns me. AI doesn't scare me about voice acting, but the concern of younger people of like being seen as cringe, that scares me, because what inherently we do is very cringe. The faces and everything that we make while we are voice acting is so cringe. It is ugly. It's embarrassing a lot of times. And I think they're so scared of it. And I can't tell you how many younger people have commented on my videos and they're like, oh my God, this is so cringe, like with the hands and the faces and everything. And I'm like, that, I don't care. But I'm like, I'll cry into my bank account. But like,
yeah, exactly.
It worries me for the future of it and like for entertainment and acting in general, because they're so terrified of being perceived as cringe, and it is so much part of the artistic process. Like if you're going to be an artist, oh my God, you're going to be cringe. It doesn't matter like what it is that you're doing, what kind of art you're pursuing, it is going to be cringe, and you have to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my real answer.
Well,
on my one piece of advice. We're
going to have a 1A and 1B then.
Okay.
We're going to keep them both in because they're both amazing pieces of advice. And I think, you to be great, you've got to be bad. You get everybody, when you start, I don't want people listening to the first audiobook I ever narrated. It wasn't so good, but I'm getting better as time goes on. So, yeah, I mean, you can't be afraid to be not so great initially. And you can't be afraid, as you said, to do something and have it not work, because you just do something else. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh, I think that there is such a fear of failure.
Yeah.
Of that. It's like, oh, what if nobody likes it? What if it's not good? I'm like, that happens to me all the time, and I'm doing real good.
Yeah.
Like I have made stuff that like does not land, it doesn't hit. And I really think that is the case for everybody who's great in anything that they do. Is it's like they've made some real awful stuff at some point, whether it's like paintings or books or, like characters or content or anything. Like it's rare. It is so rare that it's just every single thing is a home run that they're very proud of and holds up if it even exists.
Just start, right? That's the advice. Just start.
Yeah.
Just, put it out there to the world.
Yeah. You'll get better.
Absolutely. You will.
With practice, everybody gets better.
So before we wrap up, what's the best place for people to find you?
I am at Tawny Platis on every social media platform because I am the only Tawny Platis in the world. It's a very unusual name.
That's a good thing to be.
It is not bad to be the only person with that name in the entire world. So I'm at Tawny Platis on every social media platform except YouTube. I am at the Tawny Platis because somebody made a parody account of me before I got on YouTube, which was really fun.
That's funny.
So I'm at the Tawny Platis on YouTube, and you can also find me at tawnyvoice.com, which is linked to everything I do.
Well, everybody, make sure you go and check out all of that content because you will not be disappointed. As I've said about 50 times on this episode, I'm a big fan of Tawny Platis. So check out her work. She's amazing. And Tawny, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your journey with my listeners. And I wish you continued success on your journey.
Thank you so much, Mike. I always love being here to chat with you.
Thank you so much for joining me today on the Mike Lenz VO Podcast. Head on over to MikeLenzVOPodcast.com for links and recaps of each show. Catch you next time on the Mike Lenz VO Podcast.